A mother and son run from a shadowy figure, running through rubble, ducking through buildings and avoiding dead bodies piled all around them. The mother and son duck into a building and hide behind some debris, praying and begging to any entity, any god that can hear them, to let this creature not find them. Make sure they live. But soon, the rubble they are hiding behind is lifted up to reveal a giant bald man, who in a flash grabs the mother by the neck and breaks it in an instant, laughing to himself lightly as he does so. But as he turns to the child, he pauses. He can't bring himself around to killing the child. Every part of his Saiyan nature screams for him to do it, but he hesitates. This is when a blast bursts through the air, hitting the child and killing him, leaving Nappa a bit dumbfounded as he turns back to see Gohan, smoke still coming off the gloves he wears, as he asks Nappa what he was doing. The giant Saiyan says how he was just about to get the kid. This causes Gohan to apologise. As he walks closer to Nappa, we see the boy in better light. He has aged a few years since we had last seen him, and now wears his own custom armour, with a different haircut, and more importantly a scar going from his jaw to his cheek, and that childlike wonder which once lingered in his eyes, for even a small speck, has disappeared, and now they are just cold and heartless. Now being in the sight of Nappa, Gohan apologises for stealing his kill, but explains that he needs to increase his numbers if he wants a chance against Raditz. Nappa watches as the kid flies away. For a second, a sense of pride overfills Nappa as his scouter reads the kid's power level, higher than even Vegeta's, but then a feeling of guilt as he watches the kid fire off a blast which levels an entire building, as murmuring follows shortly after, coming through the scouters, of numbers being read out by Gohan, and then the boy flies away, and Nappa can't help but feel responsible. A few hours go by, and the planet falls to the might of the Saiyans, with all of them recollecting. But things are not peaceful. As the moment Gohan lands at the meeting point of the Saiyans, he locks eyes with Raditz, as he announces he has totaled 3 cities. Raditz is silent for a second, with a hint of fear in his eyes, before his eyes wander over to Vegeta, who shakes his head ever so slightly, making Raditz smile confidently, announcing how he had 4 cities. Gohan is furious to hear this, calling his uncle a liar. However, Raditz just shrugs his shoulders, saying his nephew just needs to stop being so weak, making Gohan storm towards Raditz, as both stare one another down, as we now get a better look at Raditz, who wears a similar scar to Gohan, but above his right eye, disrupting where his eyebrows would grow. Both of these wounds were inflicted to one another in one of their earliest fights. Gohan had managed to kill more than Raditz, and he had earned his chance to fight and avenge his family, but he failed. And these scars are a constant reminder of that. As Gohan looks down Raditz stares down his nephew, and for a few seconds, a fight feels like it's about to break out. But that's when Vegeta shouts out, scolding Gohan, telling him to back off and cool down, or else he'll have to get involved. Gohan just shoots Vegeta an angry glare, which lasts a few seconds before he turns away in a huff, heading towards his attack pod, saying he is leaving as he removes his scouter and heads off to space. Nappa watches Gohan leave, before looking towards Raditz and Vegeta, telling them it won't be long until Gohan figures out that the two are lying, and then he'll kill them both, reminding them that in the last 2 years he has been with them, he's only ever fought Raditz a grand total of 4 times. At some point the kid's either going to figure it out, or just kill Raditz. The only reason he hasn't yet is because the kid either is worried about Vegeta still being a bit stronger than him, or he's a Saiyan of his word. Either way, that won't last for long. He will get desperate, and when it happens, he won't feel any pity for them. Saying this, Nappa climbs into his pod, heading off after Gohan, and Vegeta shoots Raditz a look, telling him to be more careful going forward, which the long-haired Saiyan nods to before both climb into their attack pods. Each Saiyan head towards the nearest Frieza planet. Slowly, one by one, they each fall into a deep slumber as Gohan drifts off into a familiar place. We see Gohan staring at a familiar sight. A vast sea of red light surrounding a small speck of orange. It was smaller than when we last saw it, as if some light is dwindling, or something is fading from Gohan. And next to the light stands his father, and a blacked out figure. He isn't sure who it is, or even who it's meant to be, but he feels like he should know who that person is, And the more he thinks, the more he stares at this blacked out figure stood next to his father so comfortably, so calmly and so lovingly. He doesn't know, and the memory becomes more hazy. He gives up after straining his brain for a while, and solely stares at his father, who gives Gohan a warm smile, making the orange light glow ever so slightly. Seeing his father smile, a wave of guilt rushes over Gohan. Everything he's done over the last 2 years has been horrible. He's hated it. But to avenge his father, he can't afford to be soft. He can't afford to be sensitive. He can't afford any of this. These feelings of guilt aren't Saiyan-like. If he holds on to them, he'll never get to avenge his father and kill Raditz. At the thought of this, the red light grows even brighter, making the orange light shrink ever so slightly. As Gohan sees this, he awakens from his slumber. He feels a heavy impact as his ship hits the ground with some force. As he climbs out, he's spotting the other Saiyan ships coming in for landing. He doesn't wait around. He quickly takes off. He has no interest in talking to them, or even seeing them. Heading off to the facility battle room, he begins his normal habit of heading out to get a workout. Nappa lands to see the kid walking off into the building, with Raditz and Vegeta shortly after. Each Saiyan knows where Gohan's going, but don't think much of it. Instead they choose to eat, while Gohan goes to do whatever he does. And Vegeta heads off to alert Frieza of the success of their most recent mission, something the Prince hates. But recently the Saiyan squad has become one of Frieza's most successful squads in all of the Frieza army, only being bettered by the Ginyu Force, but the gap between them is very small. However, due to their massive success and power, it comes with Frieza keeping a closer eye on them. Frieza makes sure that the Saiyans act more accordingly on their missions. Now being one of his elite forces, he makes sure that property damage isn't too much, and also they complete their goals much faster and more effectively, and also likes debriefings on how missions went, and constant reports on power levels. Something Frieza does with most of his elite soldiers, to make sure that they're all in fighting shape. However, he definitely keeps a closer watch on the Saiyans, something which has come to annoy the Prince, but he has learnt to deal with it. Vegeta knows he only has to wait a few more months, then he'll be strong enough. He will need Great Ape to make it so he wins this, but just a little bit more, a few more months, and he can defeat Frieza in his Great Ape state. But Gohan could already do this. Gohan could have won months ago, and now it would be a cakewalk for Gohan. But putting him in the situation where he turns Great Ape is horrifying. They would have no way of controlling him. They didn't teach Gohan how to control his Great Ape form, an error Vegeta kind of regrets now. But he knew it was for tactical reasons, to make sure he always had the leg up on Gohan. And Vegeta believes it's the only reason Gohan has honoured their agreement for so long. But as Vegeta finishes his thought, he walks into the chambers of Frieza, standing there silently for a second, as he gets down on one knee, and Frieza praises the Saiyans for a fine day of work, telling Vegeta, "I have to admit, Vegeta, when you first brought that runt of a child to my chambers, I assumed he wouldn't make it a week. But now, not only is he one of my strongest soldiers, maybe even my strongest soldier, he has made the rest of you monkeys work harder, all of you now being much stronger than even Zarbon and Dodoria here." And a second of silence goes by. A mix of emotions floods the room. The main one is annoyance from Zarbon and Dodoria, who want to speak out and tell Frieza that he's wrong, but before the words can even escape Dodoria's mouth, a glare from Frieza causes him to gasp for air and hold his tongue. All the while, Vegeta feeds his own ego, smiling smugly at this thought, before Frieza says that he has no mission ready for them just yet, but give him a day and he'll try to have something arranged for them. The Prince nods before walking away, happy to have dealt with this issue quickly and effectively, and now he can figure out his other problem, Gohan. Back in the chambers with Frieza, he's angry. These Saiyans, they're getting too cocky, they're getting too comfortable, and worst of all, they're making fools of him and these stupid underlings of his. Even Ginyu's a joke next to that Gohan boy. But they're so worthwhile. They do effective and efficient work. It makes it hard to get rid of them, which only makes Frieza more angry. It would be stupid to get rid of his most effective force. If only he could send them on a suicide mission. One where if they come back, it's great for him, and if they don't, even better. But how does he do something like that? He sits, he thinks, there's not a mission like that. And then it clicks. There is a group which has been a thorn in his side for a while, where if they were to disappear, it would benefit him, but if they were to kill the Saiyans, it would also benefit him. He sits thinking, before finally the light bulb fully clicks, and he makes a quick phone call to someone who has been causing issues since Nappa was a young lad. As Vegeta makes it to the dining area, he finds Raditz eating alone, awkwardly looking around. Vegeta sits near him, not needing to ask where Nappa is currently at, being able to guess pretty well where he is, as Raditz and Vegeta sit face to face. Raditz asks what they do now about Gohan, with worry filling his eyes. Vegeta, who has over the last few years gained sort of a respect and a liking for Raditz, says quickly that Raditz just needs to get stronger than Gohan, which annoys Raditz, who is quick to remind the Prince that the kid is stronger than him, and the only advantage the Prince has is more years of experience and his Great Eight state. Annoying Vegeta, who gives Raditz an angry glare before speaking up. I would like to remind you, Raditz, that I am your Prince, but also the only reason you are still alive to this day, so you better watch your tongue around me, as I might see your use for now. I could wake up tomorrow and change my mind. I could let that brat have his way with you, and no one would stop, and you would just be killed in an instant. So do you have anything to add to that? An audible gulp is heard coming from Raditz, who knows the outcome of a fight against Gohan. He nods his head, asking what Vegeta is thinking to help him get stronger, as we cut over to Gohan, currently training against some Cybermen. However, these do little to even warm him up nowadays. He has long since far surpassed them, and even most of the other Frieza soldiers are nothing but child's play to the kid. As Gohan starts to walk out, having destroyed all the Cybermen he had on hand, he now starts to think of something else to do. I'm thinking to head back to his room and do some normal workout, or maybe even check out the scientist area. He has taken a bit of interest in Frieza tech, and has played around with it a little bit, but for the most part, he spends his time training. But as he walks out, he runs into Nappa, who stands with a smile, asking the kid if he would like to blow off some steam. Gohan looks a bit confused, asking what a Nappa means, as Nappa says they could spar or go around and just destroy some mountains, just something to get all of that aggression out. But Gohan shakes his head, saying that a fight wouldn't be beneficial as he would have to hold back too much against Nappa, and also wasting energy just sounds pointless. He's going to go to his room, work out, and sleep, and tells Nappa to come and get him before his next mission. Nappa feels a pit in his stomach, but nods. He heads back to eat with the other two Saiyans, with Vegeta telling Nappa of his plan to make sure Raditz doesn't die, involving Nappa training him up a little bit, maybe even forcing a few Zenkais in between missions, just to make sure Raditz can keep up with Gohan a bit better. Plus, this training would be beneficial for Nappa, who is currently the weakest of the Saiyans. Raditz had overtaken him a little while ago, and even though the gap between them is very small, it's still there and present. But no one knows why Nappa's fallen behind so much. No one but Nappa himself, who doesn't share. He just keeps to himself, and doesn't speak as much as he used to, and Homo seems to have gotten smarter in his time around Gohan. Nappa does agree to this plan, however. Getting a bit stronger and giving Raditz some Zenkais will be beneficial, as they start to formulate how to get this plan to work a bit better. A day passes, with Gohan not leaving the living quarters he has called home for the last few years. It's an empty room, with no decorations, nothing in there except his armour, his scouter, some tech he had been playing with. For the most part, it's empty. As Gohan only ever leaves his room to eat or train, he spends most of his time in here just working out to make sure he can try and kill Raditz. And while Gohan spends the day that passes in his room, the other Saiyans spend it executing the plan, helping Nappa and Raditz become a bit stronger, and even Vegeta benefits a little from this. However, shortly after this day passes, Frieza contacts Vegeta, ordering him and all the other Saiyans to be present in his chambers within the next few minutes. Vegeta, hearing this, is quick to jump into action, gathering all of his squad in a matter of moments and taking them to Frieza. Once arriving in the chambers of Frieza, all take a knee, even Gohan, who has grown more accustomed to being around the intensity of Frieza, and no longer feels the pressure of his aura. And from the moment the Saiyans walk in, Frieza wears a smile on his face, something which unsettles all of them and truly makes their spines crawl. As Frieza begins to speak, "Well, you Saiyans have been doing so well recently. I've arranged a very special mission for all of you." This raises red flags in everyone's brain. None more than Nappa. In his whole time of being alive, he's never heard Frieza refer to them as Saiyans and complimented them, all in the same breath. He can't help but be worried about the words that are about to leave Frieza's mouth. As they start thinking about it, Frieza opens, speaking once more. "I have recently had a problem with a group known as the Heeters. They keep poaching planets from under my nose, something which most don't dare to do, but they do, as if I am not a threat, as if they do not fear me or my force. And I don't like when I am pushed around. I cannot have it. Saying this, Frieza crushes a portion of his floating chair. Now, I normally would send the Ginyus or Sarban and Dodoria, but recently you Saiyans have proven yourselves to be very useful tools, and this will be your reward. A fight against an incredibly strong opponent, and also a chance to prove your loyalty to me. Now, aren't I just a generous boss? A moment of silence passes. Nappa, the oldest of the Saiyans, knows of the Heeters from back before the Saiyan planet was destroyed, knowing them to be vultures who picked off the planets that he and many other Saiyans had conquered. He had heard a rumour of one Saiyan fighting off the Heeters, but nothing was ever confirmed about it, so he has no proof or even knowledge if this truly happened. All he does know is that they are mostly weak and not really problems. Only one of the Heeters is apparently a threat, and he's quite strong, supposedly, so it won't be a simple job. But he can't help but wonder what has brought about this newfound annoyance for the Heeters. They had been poaching planets and pieces of these planets off Frieza for decades now, so why this newfound problem with them? Why wait so long to deal with them? So why now? Nappa can't help but feel uneasy. Something's telling him something's wrong, and Gohan can feel this uneasiness coming off him. Nappa is normally so calm and confident, and Gohan can see he's shaken. His mentor is never normally like this. He wants to ask him what's up. He wants to try and figure out what has caused this weird effect on Nappa. But before he can even open his mouth to ask anything, Frieza starts speaking once again, announcing that he already has attack pods ready for them, the finest ones he could find, so they can arrive at their destination as fast as possible, and telling them that the coordinates are already punched in. They just need to sit inside and take off. Before anyone can ask any more questions, Frieza gives a demand for all of them to leave now. He wants them dealt with as soon as possible, and each Saiyan is quick to leave the chambers. Shortly after, a ring bursts through the chambers of Frieza as the tyrant answers the call, causing Alek's face to appear on a holographic screen, asking if the Saiyans are on their way. Frieza nods his head and tells Alek that if he can keep his end of the deal, if he and his crew can deal with these Saiyans, he'll give them all the promised credits and more. But if he can bring him the head of that prince, he promises him everything he asked for. Alek smiles, telling Frieza to have a mantle ready before he laughs, shutting off the transmission. Alek turns to his crew and looks at his younger brother, telling Gas that he and Granola will have to play nicely on this one. After all, they both have a grudge to settle with Saiyans. As Alek's eyes wander over to Granola, who had been hired to help with the battle against the Saiyans, with the promise of cash in it for him. However, Granola jumped at the chance to face the last surviving members of the race which killed his own, even if it means he has to work alongside Gas. Back over with the Saiyans, they start their walk to the attack pods. Gohan eternally is trying to figure out how he can gain a fight against Raditz through this mission, but Vegeta screamingly beats Gohan to the punch, leaning down and telling Gohan that if he decides to fight against Raditz, this time he needs to kill more of the Heater gang than him. Getting an almost enthusiastic nod out of Gohan, as Raditz and Gohan share a look, which shares one single thought: kill. Gohan then realises Nappa is lingering further back in the group. He turns to see him and can tell that something's wrong, so purposely slows down his walking speed to be level with Nappa and asks what's going on in his mentor's head. Nappa holds this blank stare as he looks out at the attack pods. All he mutters is, "Something doesn't feel right, kid. For this one time, just stay by me. I think something bad's about to happen." Gohan looks annoyed at hearing this, but then he looks at Nappa, glancing around, as if trying to find something or someone. Gohan over the years has learnt that Nappa might not be bright, but his time served as a soldier has given him very good perception and instincts. They're sharper than anyone would guess from this Saiyan. So, reluctantly, Gohan nods. He knows to trust Nappa here, as all four Saiyans climb aboard their space pods, taking off into space and drifting into their comfortable slumber, as everyone falls into a deep sleep. Raditz struggles against his brother's grip. He tries with all of his might to escape the mighty grasp his younger brother holds over him, hearing the sound of static electricity charging up in the distance, looking over to see Piccolo, holding his fingers to his head, staring at him, his eyes locked on his target. Raditz doesn't know what to do. He stares blankly and is scared. All he can think is this where he dies. This is the end of the oldest son of Bardock. And as Piccolo fires off his special beam cannon, it cuts right through Raditz's torso, killing him on the spot. He lay on the ground squirming for a second as his brother stands over him, saying he was a pathetic Saiyan and a worthless warrior. Raditz jolts forward, headbutting the door in front of him, grasping for air, sweating profusely. As he grabs his chest where the beam had cut him down in his nightmare, he breathes heavily. This dream had been haunting him for years, the last 2 years to be exact. Every night he envisions the day he should have died. He plays it through his mind over and over again, watching that beam cut through his chest like it should have, and all he can realise is the only reason he is alive is Gohan. Raditz replays this day in his head, where Gohan had attacked him. The boy's power was incredible, mind-shattering in fact. It should have been enough to kill him, and he was heading straight towards him like a rocket, straight towards Raditz's chest. It would have broke ribs, it would have stunned him, it would have made it so he was too weak to fight, and in a spur-of-the-moment decision, Raditz sacrificed an arm, putting his arm out to try and defend himself, to make it so he could survive the attack. However, in doing so, all of his left arm was broken and dislocated in one foul swoop, which indirectly saved his life. Raditz spends a few seconds calming down, as he finally manages to steady his breathing and calm down his sweating ever so slightly. He falls to sleep once more, announcing in his brain that he refuses to die and will never fall to the hands of anyone. As the rest of the week flies by, the Saiyans soon awaken to the heavy thud of their pods impacting the dirt on the planet. As each climb out, they find themselves in the ruins of a city, which feels familiar to the older Saiyans. As they look around, Nappa's fear grows stronger. He feels like something different. He can't figure out what it is, but right now he's unsettled. As he stands on guard, scanning the environment like no other, looking for a single sign of anything, while the other Saiyans are all caught up trying to figure out where they are. And for Gohan, he's just itching to find and kill the Heeters. But that's when a blast cut through the air, heading straight towards Gohan. For a brief second, the boy can feel the power and the fierceness of the attack. However, Nappa appears in front of the boy, slamming both hands into the top of the ki blast, hammering it straight into the dirt below. This disrupts the ki blast, but scorches Nappa's hands almost completely. As he looks back, not even thinking about the pain his hands are in, to see if the kid is alright, Gohan, kind of in shock, just nods, thanking Nappa without saying a word. As Vegeta, quick to realise the situation they're in, shouts out it's an ambush, telling each Saiyan to scatter and get to cover. Every Saiyan goes to move, trying to get out of line of sight of wherever this attacker is firing from, but another blast makes them jump back and hold their ground. They have no idea where this attacker is coming from. Raditz is quick to turn his scouter on, trying to locate the assailant. However, his scouter is not picking up any power level besides their own. That's until another massive power level appears to the right of Raditz, as he is then hit in the liver by a meteor hammer, causing him to fall down onto his knees, coughing up blood and screaming out in pain. As Vegeta, seeing the attack happen, follows where the heavy metal balls are pulled back to, spotting a small blue alien swinging the metal ball on a chain with a smile on his face. Vegeta realises they were sent into a trap. He curses at the top of his lungs, realising that Frieza had sent them into a death trap. As another voice speaks up, looking around, the Saiyans see a Lex standing atop a building with another 2 aliens they assume are also Heeters. He announces, "Your deaths will fetch a fine payday for me." Looking towards Gas, "Kill them all, my brother. Leave nothing but the prince's spiky, stupid head." Everyone turns to face Gas, getting ready to fight, but that's when Nappa feels weak. Falling down, unable to move, Gohan turns to see another alien with a glowing red eye who screams out, "You monsters will pay for every life you cut short, and it starts with the Cerealians," as he extends his arms out, drawing one back as if holding a bow. Both Gohan and Vegeta realise they are fighting alone until Nappa and Raditz can stand. That's where I plan on leaving this part. Will this work? I don't know. Everything is in place. I followed the blueprints to the smallest detail, but I'm following the work of a crazy scientist who probably did terrible things to get this far with this experiment, and I'm not sure it's going to work. But I have nothing else left to try. I've tried modern medicine. I've tried inventing new medicine. We even tried the final sensu bean. Nothing's worked to wake him up. And if anything will, this is it. This is the last hurrah. If he does not wake up here, he may never wake up. An eerie silence fills this room, as the shortest person in the room speaks up. It will work. He always pulls through for his friends. So to save his son, he'll go to any lengths. We just have to activate it. I hope so. Otherwise, we have nothing left. The sound of 3 people breathing heavily is heard in this room. The silhouettes are hidden away in the darkness. This room familiar. The sound of a beeping heart monitor rings throughout it, whereas on a table lays a motionless body. It's breathing, but ever so slightly, with most of it being done by medical machinery. Everyone watches on for a few seconds before a button is pressed, causing everyone in the room to fall silent as they hold their breath, waiting for anything to happen. 10 seconds go by and it feels like it's an eternity, with nothing happening. And after 20, everyone almost loses hope before a bright light cuts through the room. A white aura bursts out of the person laying on the table, blinding everyone, showering the room with light, showering the city nearby with light. As the person on the table's eyes open for the first time in years, they shine bright red for a second before turning back to black. And all they can mutter, all they can uster out of their mouth is the name Gohan. And that is where I'm leaving this part. I hope everyone enjoyed this. I've really enjoyed writing for this story. I feel like I might have skipped a lot of things. I don't know how people will feel about this, but I felt a time skip was very necessary to kind of speed this story along. And I hope people are enjoying this. I really enjoy writing for this, and I'm enjoying revealing bits as we go with this story. After all, I've kind of left you in the dark about a lot of things. I'm interested to see everyone's theories with things going on with Gohan. One of them I really liked, and it's just interesting to see how everyone's brain operates with things going on. People want to know what's happened with Earth, and there probably will be a part coming about that some point soon. And obviously, as you can tell, things are fucking crazy on Earth at the minute. But the next part will mostly be covering the story of Gohan and the battle against the Heeters in Granola. I hope everyone's excited for this, because I kind of have a fun idea written down for this, and I'm really excited to write for it. I've pretty much got it written now, actually. I could have gone much longer, but I wanted this part to would be short, and it's still 30 minutes long. That's impressive for me. That all being said, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all have a great day, a good night, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Bye for now, guys.